Well, guys, we're already 2 games into this NHL playoffs, and we've already had a little bit of everything. We've had suspensions, controversy, and some big injuries. And today we're going to go through the series and talk a little bit about players who stood out and kind of what's went wrong for some of these teams. And we're going to start off here with the Colorado Avalanche and Seattle Kraken. Wow, this has been quite shocking to me. Seattle has really done a lot better than I expected in this series. This team, really, I came into it thinking Colorado would have a pretty easy time for the most part. I thought, this team can score goals, but they can't really keep the puck out of the net. And then honestly, Philip Grubauer has been like the MVP right now after 2 games.
To be honest with you, I thought game one and the first period of game two, Colorado looked neuter. They didn't look like themselves. They just didn't look good at all. They were making a lot of terrible mistakes, especially Devon Toews in the first period there. He was making some very terrible mental mistake, pinching the puck when he shouldn't have. And obviously with they were just pinching the puck way too much on the boards. They fixed that up in the second period and the third period of today's game in game two. And this is the Colorado Avalanche I fully expected, a high-flying horsepower team. And they absolutely created so many odd-man rushes and just destroyed the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, when I was watching these 2 games, game one and game two, it was pretty much a similar pattern for Colorado. So Seattle would get ahead early, and then Colorado would just keep firing and go crazy in the third period. In game one, it was a little too late, and Grubauer was standing on his head. Like, this guy has been amazing in this series already so far. I mean, I know it's only been 2 games, but man, he looks good. He looks like he's out for revenge on his former team here. I mean, he's faced so many shots after 2 games already. It's kind of insane. But, I mean, it was really clutch. Like Cohen said, Devon Toews had some mishaps, but he got the game-winning goal in Game 2 to kind of keep the series even at 1 apiece. I got to give Seattle a lot of credit, though, guys. I mean, this is a team that we didn't expect to be able to keep up with Colorado at all, and they have more than kept up with Colorado. They have looked like equal.
Yeah, these two teams are a lot of fun to watch because they're both a high-shooting team. They like to skate. You can tell by when you watch the series how fast both of these teams are. When they want to skate, both these teams can skate against each other. It's very exciting. And Matty Beniers actually looked really good. He's a rookie. This is his second playoff game, first playoff ever. I mean, he looked really, really good.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where this series goes. But after 2 games being 1-1, I think this is honestly a win for Seattle. But moving on to our next series here, we're going to go on along with another Western Conference team here, and we're going to go to the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild. This series has been pretty crazy too. I mean, Minnesota won that huge game early in double overtime with a 3-2 victory over Dallas, but then Dallas came back and absolutely just laid a barrage of goals on Minnesota to even the series 1-1. This series is pretty wild. I mean, we had a really significant injury early that really shifted this series, and that was Joe Pavelski getting hit by Matt Dumba and then missing the second game and most of the first game in this series. Pretty crazy because, I mean, this guy's part of the number one line on the Dallas Stars with playing alongside Robertson and Hintz. And, I mean, that was a big loss, but Dallas really rebounded even though they didn't have him.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to talk about how well Roope Hintz and Robertson and all those guys played, but the real question is why the heck did Minnesota started Marc-Andre Fleury in Game 2? It made zero sense. I am cheering for Dallas in this series, I'm not going to lie, but the thing is, I have no idea after that type of performance in Game 1 by Gustafsson to make 50-some saves and going to overtime, winning that Game 1. Why wouldn't you start him in Game 2? I have no idea what Dean Evison was thinking. They pretty much just gave Dallas free momentum in Game 2 because Marc-Andre Fleury sucks. He's not going to save a beach ball.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. I mean, Gustafsson made like 51 saves in Game 1 and won them the game. I kind of see why he might have thought of doing it. I mean, he's thinking his goalie played 5 periods of hockey and he's bagged, and that they felt like they had 2 pretty equal goaltenders. But obviously, Gustafsson played a lot better than Fleury, and we saw that. I mean, Fleury,
it's a terrible mistake.
It's pretty bad.
Marc-Andre Fleury has proven time and time again this season that he's not ready. He's not a good goaltender anymore. He is an old goaltender. He's up there in age. He's no longer that goalie he used to be. So from here on out for Minnesota Wild, if they want to win some hockey games against the Dallas Stars, they're going to have to start Gustafsson.
I'm pretty sure right now Gustafsson's starting the rest of the series. But away from a negative and how bad Fleury's played, let's talk about a guy who has really stood out, I think more than almost any player in this entire playoffs to me right now, and that's Roope Hintz. Man, This guy has won me over so darn hard lately. He has just been an animal. I like when I first watched game one, even though they lost, I told Hohen, I'm like, man, Rupe Hintz is flying out there. He's making plays. He looks so damn
He's
good.
the best player.
He is like by far,
Yeah.
like I mean, Jason Robertson, yes, I get it. He had an amazing season, over 100 points, superstar. But Rupe Hintz has made like everyone else looks so bad. He's just been so unreal. And then getting the hat trick in game two, this guy is just like light years above everyone else on the ice in this series.
Yeah, Rupe Hintz is the perfect build to be a playoff type of player. He's a big size centerman.
And he's fast.
Right? And he's fast. And when he wants to skate, he is fast. You can tell he's healthy. Normally, the biggest gripe I have about Rupe Hintz is that he's like a glass cannon. He gets injured very easily. But he's looking healthy right now. He's looking strong. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's going to be hard for Minnesota. Nothing against the Wild. I think they're a really great team, and I know
I love
people.
Kaprizov.
I know some people in the comments got offended because we picked Dallas to win this, but I mean, it's not because Minnesota's not a good team. It's just Minnesota's really banged up right now. They didn't have Hartman last game. They don't have Joel Eriksson-Ek. It's just really hard when you have no centerman to win the game. Nothing against the Wild.
Nothing against the Wild, and you're also underestimating how good the Dallas Stars are. Like they're top five in the playoff teams in terms of both penalty kill and power play. That's impressive to me.
Speaking of power plays, let's move over to another team in the Western Conference here, talking about the team with the best one. Edmonton Oilers and the LA Kings right now. This series is now also tied 1-1. I mean, these playoffs have been really good for parity, guys. Most of these series are 1-1 right now. And the Edmonton Oilers bounced back after losing the first game to the Kings in overtime. This is where we got some of our talk about controversy. Game one, that call in overtime for the penalty, it was a little weak, I'll be honest. I'm not an Oilers fan, so I kind of like that they lost. But, I mean, I thought the call in overtime was a little weak. What about you?
I was actually at the game. I was right behind the players in that game, and I can probably put a photo on there. But yeah, it was a very fun game in that game one there. The Oilers actually outplayed the LA Kings in both these games, in game one and game two. Unfortunately, in game one, Bouchard had to take that stupid penalty at the end of third period, which costed us the tying goal. And then as Scott pointed out, Desharnais, in the end of the day, it was a weak call, but Desharnais should have controlled the stick. He still hooked down the player, so it was a penalty after all, and they scored. I mean, the people were really mad in Edmonton. I was trying to avoid getting hit by beers because people were throwing beers on the ice and stuff.
Yeah, pretty
after the
disgusting.
Game. Yeah, so it was a pretty crazy game. Edmonton should have won game one, but game two they came and responded, even though they gave up the early 2-goal lead. Klim Kostin came in clutch, scored that game-winning goal. Edmonton just outplayed LA in both these games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed with LA for keeping it close. One guy I'm going to shout out who really stood out to me was got to be Mikey Anderson. This guy has been shadowing McDavid a lot of this series so far, and he's done a really good job. I mean, McDavid's just had 1 assist in 2 games, and it was on the power play. So I got to give a shout out to Mikey Anderson. He's done a really good job trying to contain McDavid, and I mean, that's the hardest job in the world because this guy's the best player in the entire world, and just props to this kid for being so young and still doing such a good job. Another guy from LA I really got to call out who has looked very good in this series so far, despite it being 1-1, is Adrian Kempe. This guy is like a junior Braden Point. Like, he's just got so much speed. He's got a wicked shot, and he has been huge for this team right now, and I've just been really impressed with his game.
Yeah, Adrian Kempe, he was able to score those 2 goals in game one out of nothing. He just shot the puck twice, and he just got them in the net. It just shows how bad Stuart Skinner is. I just feel like Stuart Skinner I feel like he's just playing in front of a good team, but he hasn't been great.
Yeah, and then from the Oilers, one guy stood out, and this physically hurts me to say, is Draisaitl has really stepped up. He's played a lot better right now, in my opinion, in the playoffs than he played in the regular season. I think this guy in the regular season is kind of meh. Like,
he's been unreal.
He didn't really do much, but in the playoffs, he's really looked good.
Draisaitl has looked absolutely Edmonton's number one best player by far. McDavid has been shut down very heavily right now by the Deneau line and Mikey Anderson and the Drew Doughty. So he's getting washed 24/7 every time he's on the ice. And it's good to see that Draisaitl is coming in clutch, and he's coming. You can tell he's healthy this year. Last year he was playing injured. This year you can tell he's playing healthy. He's shooting the puck. He is fast. He is skating. Draisaitl is one of the best players in the world when he skates, when he decides he wants to move with his legs. And in the playoffs, it seems like he wants to play hockey.
They needed this though because I mean honestly, when they have to put them together on the same line, McDavid and Draisaitl, I think that's when things go really bad. I think you got to have them split up so that only one of them gets shadowed by the good defensive play. And I think this has worked out really good for the Oilers, even though it's a 1-1 series, and the Kings have done a good job, to be honest with you. But I think this is the play going forward to separate the two and to just hope Draisaitl can flourish. And I know eventually McDavid's going to break free. I mean, 1 point in 2 games is not what we're expecting. But moving on to the last of our Western Conference matches, the Vegas Golden Knights against the Winnipeg Jets. Once again, another 1-1 series. I'm really loving this, guys. This is good because we want good parity. We want good series. We don't want the series that are 4-0. We want series that go longer and it's more exciting. And I got to talk about a guy. He's kind of been on the IR for a long time, but he seems to be pretty okay to me, and it makes you really wonder about the IR rules. And that's Mark Stone. This guy had 2 goals and assists in Game 2. He looked pretty okay to me. He didn't look very hurt to me. I think it's a little hilarious how he stood on the IR for so long for cap reasons, obviously. At this point, we can tell. But he really looked dominant.
Oh, man, I swear to God, this Mark Stone was right halfway through the season, but they obviously left him on LTR, exactly what Tampa Bay Lightning did a couple years ago with Nikita Kucherov, just leaving him on IR, allowing them to load up in the deadline. I think that's exactly what they did. So good on the Vegas. This is one of the series I followed the least because I haven't had the time to watch the series. But it seems like Winnipeg had a really good first game, and Vegas came back hard in the second game.
Yeah, it was like tale of complete opposites here. Winnipeg looked so dominant in Game 1, absolutely clapped Vegas. It was like unreal. They looked just dominant from the beginning of the game right to the end, and I was very impressed with this team. And then like Vegas in the second game, they just looked really good too. So I mean, a completely even series, and I just can't wait to see how it goes. One guy from Winnipeg I wanted to give a shout out to who has really stepped up too, and I mean it's nice because this is a guy I called as my X Factor before this series started, was Pierre-Luc Dubois. Watching him in Game 1, this guy was battling for the puck. He was hitting everybody. He was bringing that real playoff feel to the game, and I just like really enjoyed his play. And I mean, the guy got 2 points in that game, really solid. But we got to move over to the Eastern Conference now and talk about some of these other matchups. Let's start with one that had a lot of controversy, and that's the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Another series 1-1. Both teams blew each other out once. 7-3 for Tampa and 7-2 for the Leafs. I mean, crazy opposites here. Big controversy was Michael Bunting laying an elbow on Eric Chernak and then getting suspended for 3 games. Personally, for me, I do think he should be suspended, but I thought because it's the playoffs, 3 games seemed like a lot. I would have said 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit excessive. Maybe 2 games, I feel like, but 3 games is quite crazy.
It's quite a bit.
It's quite a bit. This is probably my second favorite series in this playoffs. We're gonna get to my favorite one later, but this one had a lot of excitement in it. 2 very good hockey teams and 2 very high scoring games as well.
Yeah. Crazy. I mean, if you want to see point leaders here, you're going to see it from this series because, I mean, these guys are just putting up mega numbers right now.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that it's 1-1, and I'm really excited. I hope this series goes to 7 games, quite honestly, because I think it's a lot of fun. It was pretty shocking to see Vasi allow 7 goals, but, I mean, it just shows you how strong this Leafs offense is.
It is, but they also keep in mind they did not have Chernak and they did not have Hedman, 2 of the best defensemen on the ice, like defensive defensemen, in my opinion. Not having those 2 big body guys at the back is huge. It opens up a lot for the Leafs because now it makes guys like Perbinks, it moves up everyone else, all these crappier defensemen up the lineup, and they shouldn't be playing up the lineup.
Yeah, Tampa's essentially playing with a 7th and 8th defenseman right now.
Fleury.
The elbow from Bunting knocked out Eric Chernak for a few games, it looks like, and Hedman hurt himself early in Game 1. This is going to be really tough for Tampa to try to come back with these kind of injuries. I mean, it's possible. I mean, they've been in the Stanley Cup 3 straight times. We can't really count them out, but I do think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the best Leafs team. I mean, everyone have this team as a favorite, so they have a lot of pressure this year. We'll see what they do with it, but they're looking good in the second game. Not so much the first game, but the second game they look good.
Yeah, and moving on to the next series here, we got the New York Rangers against the New Jersey Devils. Right now, I'll be honest, the Rangers are laying an absolute ass whooping on the Devils right now. The Devils do not look like themselves. This is not the team. I've watched like 30, 40 games of this year. They're not skating the same. They're not making simple passes that are like 5 10 feet away from each other. It's really odd. I think they're really kind of choking under the pressure of the playoffs. A lot of these guys are really young players, and it looks like the Rangers are definitely using that experience and the age to their advantage here.
So this is my favorite series in the playoffs because it's just two really good hockey teams going at each other, like actually. And I'm not going to take anything away from the New Jersey Devils. You know, they were absolutely insanely good all year. They surprised me the way they should be very happy with where they finished this year. Lindy Ruff did an absolutely great job with this team. Very proud of this group. They should be very proud, honestly. These kids are really young. Jack Hughes is like 21 years old. These are really, really young players. In my prediction in this playoff run, though, I had a very good feeling that the New York Rangers was going to win this series just for the fact that they went all in. The fact that they went all in, got these proven Stanley Cup players like Patrick Kane, who really showed up today. If you watch Game 2, he was the best player on the New York Rangers. This was the Patrick Kane I've been waiting to see for all year. Like he was absolutely the best player. Like he was better than everyone on that team. He just showed he was the most creative player out there. He was making perfect passes. In the passes that he was making on the power play, how dominant he looked on the power play was so good to see. Yeah, but they're both really good teams. But there's only gonna be one winner. And I feel like Scott's right. I feel like this team's so young. They're New Jersey Devils kind of struggling under pressure. And when they get to the net, there's Igor Shesterkin who's making these big saves.
Yeah, when I first saw this series, like the Rangers versus Devils matchup, I thought two things could happen. And this is why, like when me and Hohen, we do our side gambling on the side with our pools, we split it pretty much 50-50 with how many we took of each of these teams over different pools. And that's because there's the option. The Devils are the young team, the come up, the hot team, who just goes on a run and makes the Final Four. Or this is the team that just absolutely gets roasted in the first round, loses in 5 games, and are out. And it looks right now like that's going to be what happened. They're probably going to lose in 5 games at this point when you see the start. Losing both games at home does suck. I will say there was one positive for the Devils, and that is they are the second best team in the entire NHL on the road. So, I mean, technically it's not over yet, although they are down 2-0. They could mount a comeback. They could win a couple in New York. It's very possible because, I mean, they're very good on the road. They just feel comfortable with each other when they're traveling for some reason. I don't know. They won like 27 games and only lost like 9. This team's really solid on the road. But if I were to make a bet, I think they probably only won 1 game at this point in this series. They just look too uncomfortable right now, and it looks like they got some growing pains to go through. Like Cohen said, you got to give them credit, though. This is a team that was like bottom 5 in the entire league last year, and they won 50 games this year. I mean, like that's not easy to do in the NHL, and they ended up finishing top 5 in points in the entire league. Really impressive stuff, even if they lose, which I think at this point they probably will. Only 15% teams in NHL history have come back from the 2-0 start. It's not exactly common, so it would take a very special effort from this team to get it done. Really good season overall, though. Got to give these kids credit. Moving on to the next series here, though, we got to talk about Boston and Florida. This is kind of one I talked about when we did our prediction and our bracket. I said Florida's not going down easy. This team's going to fight, and man, did they ever. This series is 1-1 as well after 2, like most of the other series we've talked about. And Florida put up a real big game, too. Got a shout out to Brian Montour. This guy has been an absolute beast all year, and then contributing 2 goals and just really solid defensive play throughout game 2. This guy was my MVP for sure of that game.
Oh, yeah. Florida really surprised me. Let's put it that way. I thought it was going to be a sweep by the Boston Bruins, but no, apparently not. As you can see, it's probably going to be a pretty long series. Lion is playing really well. There's nothing I can't. And to be honest with you, even game 1, I didn't think Boston played that well. They were just I just felt like Florida looked tired in that game. They didn't look ready for the first game of the playoff.
Lion bobbled one puck.
Yeah, they look a little neutered, honestly, on the offense, and obviously Ekblad taking those dumb penalties, right? Florida just shot themselves in the foot in game 1, but Boston to me didn't look dominant in game 1. Game 2, on the other hand, my God, Florida put on a clinic, and everyone came out to play. The Lundell line looked good. The Barkov line looked good. Montour looked absolutely.
Yeah, the whole team looked good.
The whole team looks good, and the Boston Bruins just, to be honest with you, only a few handful of players look good.
Yeah, can I talk about that? There's two players on Boston that have really stood out to me. And I'm going to tell you what, straight up, guys, it's not Marchand and Pasta. The two players that have really, really, really stood out to me on the Boston Bruins, and I am just so impressed with right now. Number one, Tyler Bertuzzi. I think by far at this point after 2 games, this guy has been their best player. This guy is bringing that playoff swagger. This guy's getting points. I mean, he's scoring goals. He's making beautiful passes, which you don't see from Tyler Bertuzzi that often. He has that physical edge, and I've just been super, super impressed with him. And the other guy is Taylor Hall. He only has 1 goal in the 2 games and no assists, which sounds like it's not that sexy. But man, this guy's flying. In game 1, this guy had like 4 2-on-1s. Like, this guy is just out there and he is just going. Like, he is moving at like the speed of light out there. It's unfortunate that they couldn't finish some of those chances, but Bertuzzi and Hall have really stood out as like fantastic players.
Yeah, Krejci to me hasn't looked that good. And another one who hasn't, I expected more from DeBrus as well. I feel like he's kind of on and off there. The one guy they really miss is definitely Patrice Bergeron. It really makes Marchand. Marchand really looks like he relies on Bergeron now, as you can see. And it looks like he's not even flying to Florida. So I feel like Boston's in trouble.
Yeah, that's a bad one, losing a Bergeron for a while. Yeah. It's really sad how that actually happened. Bergeron played the last regular season game of the year against Montreal, and I found out why. It's actually pretty tragic. He played because it's his father's home city, and his father is actually diagnosed with cancer right now, so he felt like he needed to play one time in front of his father just in case something went badly. And unfortunately, he got hurt in that game, and he really hasn't been the same. So it's a little sad that Bergeron's not going to likely be in this series till later on, and I just really hope that this poor guy gets to play again soon.
Yeah, hopefully the team can rally around that.
Moving on to a series that not necessarily as close in the series. This one's actually a 2-0, which is one of the only 2-2-0 series in the entire NHL playoffs right now. And that is the Carolina Hurricanes against the New York Islanders. It's crazy, though, because the Carolina Hurricanes are up 2-0 in this series, but the Islanders have lost 2 one-goal games, one being in overtime. I thought the Islanders actually looked pretty good. Right now, Game 2, Islanders really, really stepped up. I thought they played a really good game. Barzal finally started to look a little bit healthy. Brock Nilsson was stepping up. I mean, this team was playing really well. Noah Dobson had a monster of a game. He only made 1 bad turnover in the entire game, but otherwise, he looked like he was having like his best playoff game ever of his career. Unfortunately, Carolina has just been too good defensively, and their structure has just been like ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this is another series where I'm not a big fan of. They're 2 really slow hockey teams.
Yeah, I don't like watching these games.
Yeah, they're just not fun games to watch unless you're a fan of these teams. But 2 guys that stood up to me with Carolina are Brent Burns and Sebastian Aho. Those 2 guys actually look pretty good, especially Brent Burns. The way he's moving the puck, passing the puck, looking for Aho for those one-timers look good. The second game, the New York Islanders really came back, and they should have won that game, quite honestly.
I thought they played better in game 2.
And they should have called that penalty on Mayfield.
Yeah.
Like that hit on Mayfield. So, it's just tragic that they lost Teravainen. They really don't have Svechnikov. Now they don't have Teravainen. So there's 2 guys down. Even if they beat the New York Islanders at this point, which is very likely, I feel like this team is gonna have a very hard time in the second round.
Yeah, the problem with Carolina is they don't really score a lot of goals, and that actually got a lot harder because speaking of injuries, this team lost Turvo Tervanainen, a broken hand. It doesn't look like he's going to be back for the rest of this playoffs. This team cannot afford to lose any more players, man. This team is out without Max Pacioretty and Andrei Svechnikov. Like, they're just running out of superstars like crazy. Yes, they are a tremendous two-way team. They keep the puck out of the net very well, but if you don't have anyone to put the puck in the net, this is going to be really hard for this team. I think they will still likely, as I said, like the 85% of teams that go up 2-0 end up advancing. I think they probably will, but I mean, whether they play New Jersey or most likely the New York Rangers next round, by the looks of it, it's going to be almost impossible for them to keep up firepower-wise.
There's no way. Let's say theoretically they play New York Rangers with all that star power that they have over there. They can score at any given time. And the way and as we saw in that series against the New Jersey Devils and the Rangers, Rangers can actually turn up and defend well when it matters. Keandre Miller looked crazy good. But anyways, getting back to this team, I just feel like this team with all the injuries and everything, they just won't have a chance.
No, it should be an interesting rest of the playoffs for them. But I mean, I think this series will probably end fairly soon. I mean, Carolina's just so dominant at home. If they can steal one on the road, I think it might just be over in like 5 games. A little shocking because I thought this would definitely be one of the longer series.
Same.
But guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this little summary of our first few games of the playoffs and our early takeaways. And until next time, we'll see you later. Take care and have a great day.
Take care. Bye.